E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover mentoring our youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Leda.
Hey, Emerson.
Mike. I'm Emerson Brantley, and this is C. Mike Lewis.
Yes, sir.
We are going to be talking about ideas worth knowing today. Mike, it's good to talk to you.
You too, and I've got some great ideas I think are worth knowing. So that's going to work out well.
Well, we sure are living in some fast-changing times.
It's amazing, Emerson. I get up real early in the morning, like dark 30, and I have 5 or 6 newsletters that come in daily, and each one of them has major announcements. Either in the business world or the AI world, or a combination of both. So, yeah, it's as the Chinese say, "May you live in interesting times."
Yes,
we're living in interesting times. But I've got to say this, especially for the young entrepreneurs, well, even for the old experienced ones like us, when there's massive change in the marketplace, there's always great opportunity. I mean, when I was a real estate developer, I made money in the years that home prices went up. I made money in the years that home prices went down. Where I had trouble at was when the market was flat and nobody wanted to do anything. So there's some great opportunities out there. If you're thinking about majoring something in college this fall, kids, you have a choice between majoring in AI or doing something stupid. It's your choice. That's my belief is that this is probably the biggest change in the business world since the printing press. Maybe I'd throw the typewriter in there, but yeah, I don't know about that. Definitely as bigger than when they launched PCs.
Well, and I was very involved in the launch of the World Wide Web. Unlike Al Gore, I didn't invent the internet, but I was very involved, and there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of exaggerated information, a lot of information looking forward where the technology wasn't exactly there yet, and there were people who just kind of poo-pooed it. This is no big deal. It's a game. In fact, Mike, I think I shared this with you. I paid my own way to go to my first conferences trying to learn about this thing called the internet, and actually got docked the days that I was gone from work, even though I paid my own way to go and was bringing back this information, if you can imagine that. Sometimes companies are a little behind the times and don't get it, but trust me on this. If you see it and it's happening, take advantage of learning about it as early as you can, whether or not you plan on going into it in a big way. Are you using it in your chosen career path or in the rest of your life? Because we're going to be talking about a lot of things that aren't even about business having to do with AI today.
Oh, we
Mike.
sure are. We sure are. And I want to say for the small entrepreneurs, this is an extremely good opportunity for you, because the bigger the company, the slower they move.
Always.
There's a reason why these big companies are constantly acquiring companies for hundreds of millions or even $1 billion. And you wonder, why didn't they just build it themselves? Well, the answer is they're not entrepreneurial. If they could, they would build it themselves. I mean, Google's not handing out cash just for the fun of it. They've tried to build it themselves, have not had good results, and they've found that they're
Or
better off.
Microsoft.
Either one.
Microsoft
Yeah, they
is a
found that
great
they're
example.
better off to let the little guys bust their butts and create a company and get it all working and do all the risk than they just come in with their checkbook and fix it.
Which is what they did with OpenAI and ChatGPT. And now you can do your search traditional ways in Bing, or you can use the Chat GPT backbone and have direct communication with artificial intelligence to do the search for you.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about ChatGPT and some of the other large language models that the big guys are developing. But what I find really interesting is you're seeing a lot of little guys taking those large language models and customizing them so they fit and solve an existing problem for a business and do it really well. And, I keep hearing, well, it's going to take our jobs away. AI is not going to take anyone's job away. But if you're not using AI, a guy that is using AI, he's going to so and it's anything that requires looking at a computer screen is going to be affected by AI.
Well, and it's not that it's going to take jobs away.
It's just going to move.
It enhances your ability to thrive in the job. And there's certain jobs that are basically not going to be affected much at all. I mean, it's not going to show a house in our lifetime, I don't think. If your plumbing is bad, or if you're, need to have your air conditioning fixed, and if that's the chosen career path that you're in, more power to you. We're going to keep needing that, but to be able, how many of you have ever had scans done, for example, health scans, CT scans, you name it, and you had to wait 2 or 3 days? Now, sometimes the technician right then and there can kind of say, well, I kind of saw some things like this, but we got to wait for the doctor to see it. Well, you know what? Those days are going to be over, because AI will be able to instantly spot exactly what it is that's being looked at in those scans. So there's so many things like that. Is that going to mean that the technician that does it isn't going to need to be there and oversee it, or that the doctor isn't going to be needed anymore? No, it enhances the ability to be able to provide the services that we need and the programs that we need. And a lot of the grunt work that, I'm calling it that because, Mike, I mean, sitting and just really, working hard and all the little detail stuff, that part of it will eventually be being removed from many of those job requirements.
Yeah, I think doctors reading tests is a prime example. I suspect that a doctor reading a CAT scan or an MRI is even more difficult. Can probably only do maybe 24 a day, and that would be a tough day for him. And he's
that'd be all
reviewing
he'd be
those.
doing, or she'd be doing.
Yeah, well, there's some that is all they do. because they
Yep.
get better at it. But what I was going to say is they're using the experience they earned in medical school and going through their residency and all that. So they may have seen, if a guy's been in practice 10 years, gosh, he may have seen a couple thousand scans by now. So he's getting pretty good at it. But AI can take that scan out and literally compare it to 100,000 other scans and
Or a
bring it
million.
back and give the doctor specifics on these are the areas for you to review and look at. I mean, it's still, it still isn't good enough to replace that type of person. You still need them second, reviewing it. But I think that with that, instead of doing 24 a day, they'll be able to do 100 a day, which means 3 other guys that were doing what they're doing got to find something else to do. So I mean, that's an oversimplification.
But there will be other things to do,
Oh,
because it
yeah.
opens up
I
the
mean,
door for many
oh,
other
yeah.
things that can be provided in that same experience for the patient.
Yeah, there was a time when new technology came out and everybody was sure it would destroy the secretarial business. It was going to take all the jobs away, and the technology was a typewriter. And if anything, a typewriter created tens of thousands of new jobs. It
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
take any jobs away. It just allowed us to be able to produce more content and more goods. It
Yeah.
didn't, and so I think it's a great opportunity right now. And you do need a basics in AI, but what's coming very quickly is because they now allow plugins, people are making user interfaces that lay on top of ChatGPT. And most of the user interfaces in the new, you know, special software that's going to kill emails or going to, do this or do that. Most of those are just user interfaces right now that are going through an API to Chat GPT. So they're
Well, that's essentially that's what Microsoft did with Bing.
more or
Essentially,
less, but
you can go into
I
Bing.
think the difference is, Emerson, these smaller companies, a whole bunch of them are just doing R&D for the big guys. As I think a lot of that's just going to become, like Microsoft is putting AI into all of their products. So if you're using
Yes.
Word, AI is there. All you have to do is call on it, and it's there. At least it's on mine. I think they call it Copilot or something like that. But really interesting to see. I mean, there's been thousands of new companies spring up. I review Crunchbase, which follows funding and that sort of thing of young companies, the C, the A, the B rounds, and there's some AI companies that on their A round of funding, they're valued at over $1 billion on their very first round of funding. And some of these companies are 3 and 4 years old. That's phenomenally fast. So things are coming, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about how we can use it in our own businesses right now, because I really think that's what most of our listeners are not computer programmers. They're, ordinary local businesses and, mom and pop businesses like my publishing company and or copywriting and marketing strategy like you do. I use it. I gotta say that the biggest thing I use it for is if I'm going to delve into some topic, I go on there and I ask it to give me an outline or a checklist of what I should look at on that topic. And it comes back with, 600-700 words almost instantly that are as good or
It
better
really is amazing
instructions.
fast.
Yeah, but they're as good or better instructions than I could have got if I called one of my expert buddies and spent an hour on the phone with them. And they gave it to me in 30 seconds.
Well,
So,
in full disclosure here, folks, Mike went in and did a search on topics about AI discuss on a TV show or podcast. And here we are. We have 8 or 10 different points, including where you're going, where each point could go, the points to cover, the things
Yeah.
to discuss.
Oh, it's just amazing the results that they bring back. Even for a neophyte like me, I'm finding ways to use it, and there's some guys that are really working on large platforms, like that one you and I invested in that Mike Filsame is bringing out. It's supposed to be a user face built specifically
Oh
for
yeah.
marketers, and a lot of us invested a lot of money in that because we had confidence in Mike, but we knew that if you get the right interface, AI can do wonderful things for you, just unbelievably good. And everybody's hearing a lot about prompt engineering. It's my opinion you don't need to learn prompt engineering. Just buy ready-made prompts from somebody that spent 4 hours testing one prompt.
Well, and
Like
that's something across the board pretty much. We're
yeah,
we're moving at lightning speed, but the for those of you who don't know, what Mike is calling prompt engineering is learning how to talk to AI. We've spent 30 years, 20 years, 25, 30 years learning how to search for things like on Google or Yahoo, and working with artificial intelligence is different. It's more like sitting, like what we're doing right here, Mike. It's more
yeah,
like sitting and having a conversation, but something that goes way back, Mike, to the early computer days is what we used to call GIGO. Remember that?
yeah. Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. So learning to ask the questions in a way that AI gets what you're looking for and goes out and pulls that information in and then delivers the answers for you. That's a little bit of a learning curve, because we have to be very clear. Well, a lot of these companies have recognized that's an issue. So depending on whatever it is, they have built, Mike's been calling it interfaces, which is the accurate term for it, but they've
Right.
built it programs that anticipate your questions a little bit better, and they've given you more information to suggest ways to ask it, and created programs to help you, whether you're looking for recipes or financial information, or you're a teacher and you're looking for outlines of things, or suggestions for teaching your courses of study. If you are in a career in transportation, or whatever it is, these programs have bridged that gap to make it easier for you to begin, even on a small level, to apply AI for your needs. And I keep referencing simple things like recipes, Mike, as well as business things, because we're not just business.
It's true.
We're people that have other aspects in our lives, and AI can help in our business, in our career paths, in our companies. It can also help in other areas that are
Yeah,
not
and
business oriented.
no, I tend to stick with text oriented AI because
Me
I'm a
too.
book publisher. But where there's really been tremendous strides made is on the graphic side of AI,
Oh
creating
gosh.
images. I mean, some of the images it can create literally in seconds would take a well qualified author days and days to draw. I mean, and it just the depth, the ideas, the colors, it's all It's just amazing to me. But like I said, that's something I haven't studied. But the reason for that is I'm pretty sure in the next few months, somebody's going to come out with an interface, and they're close, where I can just say, you know, I want a Viking sitting on the hood of a 57 Chevrolet at a drive-in. And it'll literally, as soon as I finish typing, it'll create that picture.
It can already do that,
So,
Mike. There are
yeah,
programs that can do that now.
there you go.
But
I,
now that you bring up a couple of good points, though. When we're recording this, there actually are some major strikes that are going on in Hollywood and on Broadway, and these strikes have to do with using intellectual property and spinning it, turning it into something else. So having AI write a play like another play, or having AI create an image like this image, or having AI reproduce the image of a person
yeah.
acting a role. So these are a lot of ethical and moral questions that are where that place where all of this is kind of trying to find the common ground.
It's
AI
going
can
to be
do
tough.
it is tough.
I
It
mean,
is.
Google's been stealing everybody's content for 20 years.
Yeah.
So there's some precedent there. And the other thing I've got to say, since I'm in the publishing business and I've, worked with 1,000 authors, nobody has created an original manuscript since the alphabet was invented. The guy that created the alphabet, that was a
Mine have been pretty good.
well, the alphabet was original, and everything else has just been a rearrangement of what he created.
Okay, I'll accept that.
And yeah, I mean, I might look at the Mona Lisa and then paint a picture of a woman, and that's kind of what AI is doing. So, did I steal the idea? Or if I looked at Mona Lisa and I looked at Venus, and did I, the two of them together, is that creative or is that plagiarism? It's going to be a tough question to answer.
Yeah, these are not easy
But it's way
questions.
above my pay grade, so I don't care.
And
What I care about.
for the viewers, these are the kinds of questions. Anytime you have a new technology that comes out, there's always going to be downsides and upsides. And we have to, as a society, we have to figure out that maneuvering and how we adapt to it. But it doesn't
Exactly.
go away. It's not going to go away.
It's not going away. You can't legislate that. You can't put the smoke back in the computer. Once that little white puff of
Genie
smoke's
back in the
gone, it's
bottle.
gone. That too. Emerson, could I suggest that you put your video off? You've got a bad connection,
Oh,
and we
shit.
keep losing a lot of your audio. So
Okay.
why don't you just go dark on us, but leave the audio on, so where it's breaking up a lot when you're saying stuff. And there's that good-looking guy. That's why I wanted you to do it. Can you still speak, Emerson? Emerson? Hey, I guess I'm on by myself. Okay, well, Emerson will be back, I'm sure, folks. But in the meantime, I did want to, you see below the Ideas Worth Knowing logo going by. And I did want to mention that we're building a base of free books that are very cutting edge. They're either interviews or they're specific topic related. You can see over on the side there that Jim Grant's done an interview with us. It was on how he built his podcasting network. If you're going into podcasting, man, that's a great little book to read. Tom Beal is talking about, on this interview, he talked a lot about how he got in such great health. And he is, I mean, he's probably got a body fat way down in the single digits, folks. And doesn't drink, walks every day. I mean, he does all the stuff that on New Year's Eve we said we were going to do. So we're going to have a lot of interesting books there. So the site's not quite ready yet, but if you email me at Ideas Worth Knowing, I will put you on the list. And the minute the site's ready, we're going to be making a big announcement. Hey, he's back.
I am.
Yeah, but
Can
your
you hear me?
video's
That's the question.
yeah, I can hear you, but the video's still acting bad. If you go right to the bottom, you should have a stop cam button.
Yep.
That shouldn't kick you out. Can you still talk, Emerson? Gosh, it's kicking you right out, buddy. I guess you're gonna have to leave the video on. Okay, well, while Emerson's doing that, he spoke about the 10 points that I had researched so that we had something to talk about with AI today. And as I said, the machine did it so easily, and it was very impressive. But I've got to say, and you tend to hear about the screw ups, like the attorney that submitted something to the court without proofreading it, and it had precedents that were made up in it. Well, you know, I don't care who's working for you, whether it's an entry level employee or it's AI. You want to check the work if your name's going to be on it. That's just common sense. When we produce a book, not only has the author read it probably 10 times, but so have the editors, the line editor, the language editor, all of these guys review and review that before it goes out. And it needs to be the same way with AI. I would say 90% of what I get back from AI is good to go just the way it's written. But boy, you got to watch out for that other 10%, folks. So you need to read it all. Hey, Jim, thanks for jumping in. Emerson just had a bad bandwidth today, and he just kept breaking up. So I knew we weren't going to get a recording.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But Jim knows everything about everything. So we're good now, folks. We're in good hands.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I can't lead us out of the woods, what can I say? Now, Emerson, with his connection and all, he's been having some connection issues, and he's doing some upgrades and stuff. And so I keep my standard joke when things like this happen is just go down to the ATM, get a pocket full of quarters, and just keep putting it into the machine, and it'll roll on,
Yeah.
But, thinking about the books, the ideas worth knowing. I don't want to change the subject or anything, but I just want to emphasize very quickly to the folks out there in TV land, my goodness gracious, everybody's got a book in them. They really do. Even if it's just a simple book about your family, the things that you know. Because stories that, do not get told and passed on, or especially like recorded, like in a book, they usually wind up in the graveyard, don't they, Mike?
They really do. And it's so sad to see. I have a close friend that's not quite 90 yet, but he's getting there. And he's been a music producer since 1954 when he founded the Newport Jazz Festival. And he's got unbelievable stories. When I say unbelievable, I mean like he was the promoter the night that Bob Dylan went from acoustic to electric. And Dylan was terrified, wouldn't go on stage. And my friend suggested that he's either going to go on stage the way he is, or he's going to go on stage after he kicks his butt. But either way, he's going to go on stage. And, but when he dies, we're going to lose all those great stories.
Oh,
And I mean, gosh, my family, we have one person that kind of tries to keep the records in the family. But with the exception of that, we've lost, I'd say, we can't go back more than 2-3 generations behind my parents. And that's a shame.
It really is. Like in my family, I grew up in a farming community, and my dad, he had a farm. He grew cotton and corn, And back in the old days, the standard procedure that was accepted by people was to record special events like births, deaths, marriages, things like that in the family Bible.
Of course.
And in fact, when my dad went down to get his birth certificate, because he was born at home, the North Carolina state law allowed the family Bible to be used as an official document. And that's just one little example of how important it is to be able to, get your story out there, because you're a subject matter expert in something. It might be recipes, it could be your family history that would be beneficial. There, you could even tell some stories about your family history that would other people would find interesting, because you've got some people in your ancestry that really do have done some wonderful things, but their story was never told. And with the way you use AIs and the way you can, let's just talk just for a moment about the way you can record someone over a Skype, and you can download that, and this is how easy it is for you to get a book out there. Listen to this, folks. As Mike, you simply record people on a Skype call. You interview them.
Yes, I interview them to pull the information out of their heads, so it's really their book.
Yeah.
And then we transcribe it, and we have AI take a pass at it first for grammar and that sort of thing. Then I turn it over to a human writer to polish it, and in particular to make sure that we keep the author's voice in it, so it doesn't sound like it was written somebody else. So even though the author isn't physically typing anything, it's 100% his ideas, it's 100% his edit, and when it's done, it's 100% his book.
There you go.
And the difference is he used me, my staff, and machinery and AI to assist him in what he was creating. But he was still the creator. It's just like you can use a tractor on the farm, but if you don't get up at 6 in the morning and get on that tractor, it's not going to do you a lot of good. So it still takes that. You still got to know the time of year to plant, what to plant, and what. I mean, it's not a job that as of yet we can farm out 100% to machines.
Oh yeah, and that exact process that Mike has explained is how my book got recorded. And the specialty he wanted from me was about putting on podcasts with it, because the principles are the same in a podcast, TV show, radio show. I've done them all. And to give you an example, you see there on our ticker tape, visit our sponsor and receive your complimentary 10 books. You get your library card at that website there, ideasworthknowing.com.
Yeah, as I said earlier, Jim, we're under construction with that, making some major changes. So if they would, the next graphic that we're going to put up is my email, which is mike@ideasworthknowing.com.
Oh, okay.
They can reach out to me. You guys can reach out to Jim or Emerson. Just let us know that you have interest in having some of the top, most current business books there are. There we go. And we'll put you on the list. And the minute, and we expect it to be done real soon, but the minute it's done, we'll let you all know. And what's held us up a little is we actually launched a nonprofit to own the Ideas Worth Sharing book website. And we got our final approval today, but it was a little bit more challenging than I thought it was. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take care of that. Heck, just form a corporation. Wrong. There's a whole lot more besides that.
Oh,
but the reason we did that is there's a lot of big corporations that are very generous with nonprofits. So any of our nonprofits out there that want some help, particularly on the marketing side, send me an email and say that you need help like that, because I'm working with a lot of experts. And for one thing, one of my experts is going to have us qualified next week for a $10,000 a month donation for advertising that's available to any nonprofit that qualifies. I did not
Wow.
know that.
Hmm.
So that's going to make it much, we're not going to have to go out and beg for money because we're going
Hmm.
to have that. So we'll be able to reach a lot more small businesses because of the generosity, and it's Google that's doing it for us. But all
Wow.
big guys have, they have discounts on software. They have trainings that they'll give to nonprofits only. All
Hmm.
these successful businessmen and companies, folks,
Hmm.
they really want to give back. They're not
Hmm.
doing it for a tax write-off because, and it makes me crazy as a person that owns a business when somebody says, well, you can write that off as a tax write-off. Well, the tax rate is only 37%. So that means 63% of what I spent came right out of my pocket,
Hmm.
you know. So
That's right.
it's these people are given real money and they're making real progress and they're helping real small businesses that would otherwise not have survived.
Hmm.
And the deeper I get into it, the more I'm amazed with the generosity and the different things that are available to nonprofits.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, the book publishing company is my for-profit company, but this nonprofit is a real win-win for me because my authors all want to get they did the Ideas Worth Knowing book because they've got an idea that they want to get out there and share with people.
Hmm.
And I've got young businesses that don't have a lot of money, but they want to learn, they want good coaching, they want good information. Well, somebody that wants to know about podcasts can go to our website, download your book for free, and get a really, really nice couple-hour mentoring by Jim Grant, who's, his shows are pulling between 1 and 1.5 million views a month, folks.
Hmm.
He knows what he's doing. And, he talks with that slow Southern accent. But, yeah, when it comes to podcasts, Jim does know what he's doing. And so you could hire him. It's probably only going to cost you $500 an hour for Jim to coach you, or you can read the book that Jim poured his everything he knew into. He didn't
Hmm.
hold anything back.
Hmm.
Any question we asked, any thought he had, he added it. I mean, there was no, oh, I'll give you this much, but I won't give you the secret sauce.
Hmm.
That's one of the things when I'm interviewing the people for these books, they got to give me the secret sauce,
You
or we
better
just don't
believe it.
do the book. And
Yes.
they want to do that. They want the
Yeah.
reader to be successful because they
Oh,
know if
yeah.
you're successful, eventually you're going to come back and do business with them and they're going to make a lot of money from you. So it's
Yeah.
self-serving for them to share like this,
Hmm.
but really that's not the reason they do it. They really do
Hmm.
it with generosity from the heart, just like you do with all the
Hmm.
shows that you're doing. And
Yeah.
AI is what we were talking about today, folks.
Hmm.
But what AI does is it does a lot of the mundane tasks
Hmm.
that, I'm a two-finger typist. I mean, if I get really smoking, I can get up to about 12, 14 words a minute, and only 7 of them are spelled wrong. So, I got it. But when I use this little headphone and microphone, I can type right around 200 words a minute
Mm.
with probably 2% inaccuracy, maybe less. Because
Hmm.
as the machine learns how I talk, it gets better and better. So I've got 35,000 minutes of interviews in my file. So I can let AI look at all 35,000 minutes of that. And the thing they've released that's really going to help us all is you can now make the AI fit the way you want it to fit. So
There you
they've
go.
got an area that the AI will remember. So you can say, I want it to write in the style of Frank Kern, but I don't want to be overly aggressive, and I want it to be a very friendly writing. And you
Hmm.
can give it all of these parameters so that the next time you pop a question in or ask it to do something, it now can go back and look at all the stuff that you put in before, and it saves it there. Before, you had to put all that stuff in every time. So
Mm.
that this week has probably been one of the bigger changes in AI is the ability for you to custom fit it to the way you want it to talk and to what you want it to do. I mean, and it's phenomenal. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I have a good friend named Mike Filsame, and I asked it to write a sales letter in the style of Mike Filsame, and I put it right up against one I know he'd written, and it wasn't quite as good as Mike's, but it was pretty good, and it was in his voice. I mean, somehow
Wow.
those big computers went out and found enough Mike Filsame stuff on the internet that they could tell it how to write it,
Mm.
and it can do that with any well-known person. That's a double-edged sword, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because there are bad players in any industry and every industry
Mm-hmm.
that are going to take advantage of technology
Mm-hmm.
for evil. I mean, I don't know how else to call it. You're cheating old folks out of their pension. You're an evil SOB.
Uh-huh.
But there's nothing we can do about that. But folks, if good people like us don't help to develop the technology, we're given, we're ceding that to them, and we don't want
Mm-hmm.
to do that. So I mean, had a 20-minute conversation with my uh, doctor the other day because I asked him. I said, have you done anything with AI? He says, well, I've read a lot about it, but I haven't tried it or anything. And for 20 minutes, he quizzed me on, how to use AI, what can his kids use it in college,
Mm-hmm.
how can it specifically help him in his medical practice. I
Mm.
mean, I'm sure the next patient behind me was, was upset because we had a 30-minute, 10-minute of him doing his doctor stuff and 20 minutes of me coaching him about how to use AI. So there's somebody sitting in the next exam room, I'm sure, that wasn't happy. But that's just an example that anybody that gets exposure to it, correct exposure, I should say,
Right.
is going to be amazed and they're going to want to do things with it. The problem is that damn 20, excuse my language, that 24-hour news cycle will find one little spot, one little error. There's tens of thousands of attorneys using AI right now. One attorney, one time, turned something into the court that he forgot to check and double check, and it had a couple inaccurate precedents in there, which
Mm-hmm.
had he read it and done his due diligence, he would have caught. Well, we heard about that for a week on all the news shows. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people using it. One guy screws up, that's who they focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And folks, a lot of us are going to screw up. I'm pushing it to the limits and doing it every day, and it's so much fun. But it's just a matter of, at this time at least, you got to check your work
Mm-hmm.
because it can do what they call hallucinating. And that's where it just gets into like a little loop. And when I'm interviewing, I call it wandering or going off target, you
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, and sometimes some people have found ways to make it do or obscene words and that sort of thing.
Mm.
Well, there's going to be idiots that there's safety things built in to keep it from doing that. But every time, in my experience, that you idiot proof something, they invent a better idiot. It's
Mm-hmm.
and the big guys are dancing as fast as they can. They don't want their machines putting out crap. They're
Mm-hmm.
spending billions of dollars to try and
Mm-hmm.
keep that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's just going to make such a change for all of us. I'm 67, so I'm not going back to college to learn it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really pushing my grandkids to focus on it.
I would like to add something to that happened to me about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Some of you folks that follow the show will remember the story. And this guy sent me an email, and supposedly he had my head on some other person's body, and he was trying to exploit money from me. And I went right on the TV show live. And I says, I know this guy, this is the email I got from Gmail. Put it right on a marquee there.
Yeah,
because I didn't hide. Don't ever run from someone like that because they're the
no,
coward.
that's right.
And I said, I told him, I said, I'm not going to give you a dollar. He says, I can really, ruin you because he thought I was some type of big celebrity or something. And I said, well, before you do, if you got any real good pictures of me, send them to me. I'll show them to my wife, and maybe I can impress her. I made a joke out of it. And from that, I never heard another word. The,
Yeah,
the moral of
I
that
get those
story,
all the time.
the moral of that story is never run from someone who has an evil mind, who is trying to harm you. Because if you stand your ground and just say, whatever, you know you're innocent, you're not going to play that game with them, and please, please, please do not send people like that one thin dime
No,
because they're
of
not worthy
course
of it.
not.
And the good news of it is, getting back to the authors here, the reason why the authors were so willing to do that, listen up, folks. When you bless someone out there, you're going to be blessed. What you give,
Tenfold in my experience,
and it's
tenfold.
going to come back. It's going to come back.
Yeah.
And your focus should be on helping people and
And
being a blessing to them. Go ahead.
and you never know where it's going to come back from.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Isn't that the truth?
it's a really small world, folks. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I I won't give any numbers, but I helped one kid with something really minor that he was struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
That I met at an event, and he was a nice kid. I enjoyed helping him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got all the reward I needed just from seeing him walk away smiling. Well, I got a big contract about 3 months later, and
Wow.
I had no idea how the guy contacted me. So I
Mm.
asked him, you know, after the contract was signed, I said, "Do you mind if I ask, you know, how did you hear about me?" And it was that young kid's father. The kid had bragged to his dad about what I did, and the dad recommended me to an executive that he knew that wanted a custom book written.
Wow.
You know, so yeah, you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I like to help people just because I like to help people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know you're the same way. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
and if you do it without any expectations of getting something back from them,
Oh yeah.
you know, it's not a gift if you expect something in return for
Mm-hmm.
it. It's a transaction.
And
And
Mike, when you give a gift expecting something in return, what you've really done is cheated yourself and shortchanged yourself out of a bigger blessing that will come.
I agree.
And one of the things that I like to share, if you see there on the marquee, the little ticker tape, "The Strangest Secret" by Earl Nightingale. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've never heard of The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale on YouTube and you got some doubts and fears and worries in your mind, I encourage you to go online there. It's an MP3, which means there is no movie to it. It's just his solitary picture. And you can put your headphones on and just close your eyes and listen to it. And it's got a message in there that will resonate with you because it will really, first time I heard it, it kind of, I thought, wow, really? You know? And then try it. Just try it. I ain't gonna tell you what Strangest Secret is because that would
Uh,
spoil it.
yeah, you really need to listen to the whole thing. And folks, when I listened to it, it was on vinyl, 33
Mm.
and a third. So it was a great big vinyl record. And because it had been passed around from all of my friends and that, it was scratched up and jumping and everything. But the
Mhm.
message still came through.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
now folks can listen to a nice, clean, smooth MP3.
Hmm.
They can even listen to it at a higher speed if they, but I like the nuances in hearing his voice because
Mm.
he was one of the really great idea people in the world,
Yes.
and he's one of those people that changed thousands and thousands of people's lives.
Oh
And
yeah.
gosh, I'd like to leave a legacy like he left, or William Clement Stone. You know,
Oh,
I mean, folks, there's thousands
Napoleon
of
Hill.
masterminds going
Mm.
on every day in the country,
Hmm.
and all of those are because William Clement Stone ratted on the guys that had one of the first masterminds, and they were called the Vagabonds. And
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Vagabonds, Jim,
I've heard of them. Yeah.
but one of them was Henry Ford.
Uh huh.
Another one was Ira Firestone,
Hmm.
and another one was the then sitting president of the United States. And there were four other capital industry magnates that went too. And these guys would go out and camp for a week in the woods. And the campers, folks back then, that they were using the trailers with the cook wagons and stuff.
Hmm.
If you saw the pictures, you'll laugh your ass off at it. But I mean, we've got some of the greatest industrial minds ever
Hmm.
that felt that it was worth their time to once a year take a full week of their time. Folks, you realize even back then, the president was pretty darn busy.
Oh
And
yeah.
for him to think something was important enough to take a whole week away from Washington, that's a
Hmm.
big deal.
Yeah.
And it's because of the power of a mastermind.
Hmm.
It's Stone said, when you put one and one together, you don't get two, you don't even get three, you get a geometric explosion in the ideas.
Mm.
So if you can get with 10 or 12 people that and when you go into a room for a mastermind with 10 or 12 people, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. you know I mean, you I'd much rather be I was in a mastermind that for land development. There were 12 of us, and at 100 million a year in sales, I was the little guy.
There you
And
go.
I
You
mean,
were the smart one.
several of these were, publicly traded companies and things.
Hmm.
Holy crap, did those guys teach me a lot. I
Oh
went from
yeah.
borrowing with local banks where it was a huge deal because it was such a big number for them, to borrowing on Wall Street where the guys are like, "You sure you can't use another 5 or 10 million?" I'm like, "No, I got to pay this back someday, guys." So it was just totally different when
Mm.
once you had the power of that many minds working
Mm.
on fixing your problem. And then I helped a lot of them because I was real good at field management, and
Hmm.
I was real good at pay per click. None of them knew what that was.
Hmm.
uh, and so it was a give and take, and it is in a
Yeah.
good mastermind. But and that's one thing AI is not going to replace. I
Mm.
don't care right now, at least, maybe in the future, but right now, there isn't a computer in the world that's as smart as five or six people sitting around a table. There just isn't.
Yeah.
It's they're headed that way, folks, but they got a long ways to go
Hmm.
before they could match what God created in our
Oh
brains.
yeah.
Uh,
Because when you're visiting like that in a mini mastermind, that's what I tell people when we're visiting on the show. Ideas will come to us, and that is pure energy from a higher intelligence. Because I tell people there might be just one person out there in TV land, if they're watching us live or if they see us video on demand, there might be that one person that needs to hear that. And that is so very important. And Mike, I like what you said there because I've often described business deals as being like a potluck. Everyone focuses on their special dish, what they bring to the party.
yeah,
And then when everybody comes together, there is plenty for everyone, and there's plenty to take home, and everyone is blessed. And that's the way a good business deal has to be. It's got to fit
yeah,
that parameter. If not, if you have a guy that goes to a potluck, we had this one time. I wish I was making this up. We used to. I was a board member of volunteer fire department. We had potlucks and all that. We had one individual. Every single time he'd show up, he would bring one raw onion. He wasn't poor either. I mean,
yeah.
not by a
We
long
had
shot.
one with ours that brought one bag of potato chips every time.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
his.
Yeah, he was tighter than bark on a tree when it come to his money. But you know what? He was never really happy. That was the really sad thing that we noticed about him.
Yeah,
And it's pitiful because once you learn how to give and you have a giving heart, like what Mike did there in that mastermind he was in, He wanted to make sure he was able to deliver his special dish, what he could do to bless them. It's just a win-win-win situation.
Yeah, I'm stealing that potluck story because
Okay.
another thing at the potluck is everybody brings their best dish because they want to outdo the other ones.
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
same way in a mastermind.
Mhm.
Guys will throw out ideas that you could talk to them for 2 hours one-on-one and they'd never
Mhm.
mention, but somebody else gives an idea and then they can build on that. And then
Mhm.
pretty soon, you've got this
It just
massive amount of help.
it just
It's hard
mushrooms.
to
Yeah.
describe.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a benefit to me all my life. I know
Mhm.
we're almost running out of time,
Yeah,
but
we are. Mhm.
I do want to mention, folks, if someone helps you in the way that I talked about, whether they do it through you watching a YouTube video or a
Mhm.
podcast or a TV show or whatever, drop them a line and say thank you. I
Mhm.
can't tell. It makes my day when I get an unsolicited email from somebody that says, I saw you speaking at so and so, and I got this idea from you, and I took it home, and it changed my life.
Mm.
Well, man, does that make you feel good when you read an email like that? And I'm going to keep doing it anyways, but those
Mhm.
emails really help on the tough days to, just say thanks, folks. If someone helps you, just say thanks.
You bet.
That's all we want. And
Mhm.
that will give them the energy to go ahead and help other people.
You're exactly right. And the one thing about positive energy like that, it doesn't run out of gas. It just starts vibrating, getting bigger and bigger
Multiplies.
and bigger.
Yeah.
It's just grow. It just mushrooms
Yeah.
on you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. We're sorry Emerson has some issues there with the computer and all, but we're so glad that you tuned in today. On behalf of Emerson and Mike and myself, we sincerely hope that this show has blessed you. If it has, please let others know. Most importantly, be sure and get in touch with Mike. And anything that he has talked about or shared on the show, be sure and get back with him on that. And I'm trying to find his email right now. There it is. You can email him at mike@ideasworthknowing.com. And
Yes.
Mike will be very, very happy to answer your questions and help you any way he can.
Love to do it.
Mhm. Well,
And next week, Jim, we're going to tear my personal website apart. It's cmikeLewis.com.
mhm.
And it's what I call an ego website. And folks, you want to tune in for this one because it's I'm gonna let you know a lot of secrets that most of the upper level speakers would shoot me for.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, I hear you.
I figured it out. I'm going to share it. That's just the way it is.
There
So
you go.
we may have a surprise guest, but if not, that's what we're going to talk about next week
Mhm.
is how to build what I call an ego site, but it's a site to boost your credibility
Mm.
and to show people you're consistent in what you do and it's
Amen.
congruent. So it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you again for tuning in. We hope that you and your loved ones are blessed in all areas of your life. And we just hope and pray that we've blessed you in this show, and be sure and share it with others. We'll see you next week on Ideas Worth Knowing. Bye-bye.